So have we known each other about 20 years, Penny?
The first time I actually met you was at an exhibition. I think it was at the NEC.
Oh, was it? Oh, we've known each other longer than I thought then.
You were showing at that time.
Well, I remember meeting you at the Polymer Clay Guild weekend thing. There was Birdie was there, and Sue Heeser was there, and a couple of other Americans. So that's when.
Wasn't France or America, was it?
No. This was in Norwich or somewhere. Not.
Oh, the British one. Yeah. Okay.
The British one. Yeah. So that's when I remember meeting you first.
I go to many of these things, or used to. Not so much now, but I used to.
So a few years have gone by since then, but you'd already started Clayaround, hadn't you?
I started 12 years ago.
Oh well, so you were just playing then.
Yeah.
Okay. So
learning.
Yeah, we're still learning, aren't we, Penny? So it's fair to say that you're a lady of a certain age, and this is the reason that I've asked you to come onto this group for this chat, because I don't want people to think that starting a business is something that you have to be young to do. And in fact, now you've just confirmed you were even older than I thought you were when you first started Clayaround.
I was 68 when I started.
So even a little older than I am now.
I'm in my 80th year now.
Congratulations, Penny. And Clayaround is doing, as far as I can see, rather well. I know you're quite busy. Yeah. So basically, this is an it's never too late to start chat. So I'd love to know what made you decide on polymer clay, and then what made you decide to go into business?
I don't know which came first. I've been looking for, always looking for ways to make money because I couldn't live on my pension. Yeah. That was always there in the back of my mind. But the way that started, I mean, if you want to, the whole story is that my son took me to America on a holiday, which was wonderful. I wanted to go to Niagara Falls, and we were driving up through America, and we stopped for petrol, and fatal, there was a bookshop opposite the petrol station. Yeah. So as far as I was concerned, I've got to go to the bookshop. I said, look, I'll see you later. You can find me in the bookshop, which is what he did. Sat on the floor in the craft department, because I think crafts is the only thing that has ever interested me, really, if I'm honest. Yeah. Anyway, I found a book which said polymer clay on the front. And I said, whatever is polymer clay? I hadn't got a clue what it was. Lots of pretty pictures. Opened it up, looked interesting. So I bought the book. I bought a book on, I think I've still got it here, on the Chinese knotting as well.
At the same time?
Yes, at the same time, which I'd never seen or never encountered. I thought that looks fun.
Yeah.
Because I'm into knitting and weaving. And
who was the book by the way, just to shout out if you can remember?
It's the American, it's got a long name. I should have thought to bring it in here.
Never mind.
I've forgotten his name. He did a lot of getting his, what am I trying to say? What's one of those that does
caning? No,
it's putting the polymer clay onto a grinding machine to put designs in. I've forgotten the name of it.
A grinding machine?
No, it's not a grinding machine. It's a
pasta machine.
No, for what engineers use for turning. Engineers.
Right, yes. Yeah, and I can't remember the word either. So that's the certain age bit coming in for both of us, but it will come to me.
But you know,
my mum used to do it as well. You usually use wood, don't you?
I forgot what it's called.
Right. Wood turning. A lathe.
Wood turning. Lathe.
It comes eventually, doesn't it, Penny?
Oh, it's horrible. I hate it when I lose words.
Yeah, me too.
they were fascinating, was the designs that he produced in polymer clay on his lathe. And I thought, this looks really interesting. Anyway, I took the book home. And I just became absolutely involved in reading about it. So I started just researching and researching and researching. And then I did bought some clay. That was from Sue Heeser from the clay pit.
Yes.
And then I started making things, and I started practicing and learning how to do it. And this is a craft I can do, and this is a craft I liked. And I just kept on doing this for about, it was about 6 months. Yeah. It was in the October when we went on holiday. And it was in the April, so it is about 6 months. It was in the April that I went to my first ever workshop, which was quite a big one. I know that Donna Cato was teaching at that time. I can't remember the names of the other people.
It could have been the one that we first met at then, about 22 years ago, something like that, 23 years ago.
This was 12 years. Anyway, the point
I'm sure I met, oh, well, anyway, it doesn't matter.
12, 13, it would have been 13 years ago. No, it would have been 13 years ago.
Oh, right. Well, Penny, I'm getting you mixed up with somebody else, I think, then.
There's too many of us.
Yeah, that's right. But anyway, we've known each other for a lot of years. Yeah.
Anyway, I was just fascinated and very amateur, I might add. I can remember though, and this is what resonated with me, was the person who was hosting the workshop said, well, I'm sorry, I've been sent the wrong clay.
Yeah.
And I've been sent it on the day too late.
Yeah.
And if only I had another supplier.
Yes.
And my little head went, hold on. I could do that.
Yeah.
Now, I've never, ever run a business. I mean, I've been a life coach, I've been a trainer. The last thing in the world was for me to be running a retail business.
Yeah.
But she, I thought, okay. I was hooked onto Cato clay, and I went to talk to Donna. I said, Donna, would it be possible to import polymer clay, Cato clay?
Yes.
I see no reason why not, she said. She was, I mean, I know now that it was just a sort of passing remark from Donna. Anyway, I went home. And the next thing I did was I just researched and researched and researched. This was now about researching what you have to do if you're running a business. There was no question of me doing it any other way than online. And this was because I've always been into computers and because my son has always been there to support me. I've got a family of computer whiz kids around me. And I decided, okay, what I've got to do, I've got to build a website. I've got to find a method of buying the stuff. So first thing I did was I bought some Cato and I bought some Cernit, which is interesting.
Yeah. Oh, can I ask you, what age were you when you started that research for this business?
So I was 68 when I started, so I must have been 67.
Yeah. So you don't have to be a child to start a business. Right, cool.
First time I've ever done anything like this. It was completely new to me. I've never bought stuff wholesale. I didn't know how to buy stuff wholesale. In those days, we had reps who came to see us. I can remember a rep coming to see me, and I had the sum total of £500 to spend, no more than that.
Yeah.
Mind you, what, 13 years ago, £500 was probably quite a lot of money.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I bought a certain amount of Cato straight from America and a certain amount of Cernit, which was comparatively new in the UK. In fact, it was very new in the UK. And in fact, it took me about 3 years to sell off that first lot of Cernit. It just didn't sell. But
because people weren't recommending it at that time, even though it was good.
It was used in on the continent, but it wasn't used in the UK.
That's right. Yeah.
But the Cato was successful.
And yet I personally would choose Cernit every time. And I've got stacks and stacks of Cato. It has its uses. They all have their uses. But once I found the strength of Cernit, I was just...
Yes. Well, I've only started selling Cernit in the last year, 18 months.
Yes, I remember.
And I'm very impressed with Cernit.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
I'm very impressed with the company. God, it makes a difference.
It's such a difference. In fact, without going into too much detail, I will say that companies that don't recognize customer relations will never do as well as they could. That's as far as I'm prepared to go on.
Get me on that one. The trouble is the big companies, and am I struggling? It's an understatement. And I'm not going to mince my words. I'm struggling with Polyform.
Yeah.
Serious problems trying to get stock from them.
Yeah.
And they are so big.
So I love their clay. I also love their clay.
And it's my bestseller. This is the big problem.
Yes.
And they are so big that they bluntly couldn't care a shit about their customers, is how I am. Sorry about my language.
No, I completely understand it. And us artists have to vent sometimes. And if I think there's a problem, obviously, we have to give people a little bit of leeway because of COVID. But if a customer relations manager, a sales manager or whatever, doesn't understand, and my experience is with another company, so if they don't understand how to support the people who are their best advertisers, then they will lose. And it doesn't matter how good your product is or how, if a new product comes in and the company owner, and this is very good advice for anybody starting a business, actually. If you're starting a business in an area that somebody is already in, but you give better customer service, as I know Penny does, if you give better customer service, as Cernit is doing, then you will take a greater slice of the pie, no matter what.
Absolutely.
No matter, even if people would really prefer the other clay, which they wouldn't necessarily, but if they would still always go for better customer service these days.
No question, absolutely no question. But then I'm quite obsessed with customer service. I could go give you a lot of stories about customer service.
And it shows.
Not the least.
It shows, Penny.
Well, I was a trainer. I was an NLP trainer for many years before I was an NLP coach. But teaching people, I was teaching her. I can remember teaching in all the post office centres, in the Royal Mail centres all around the country. That was an arduous job. But the point is, it was always about teaching people about customers.
Yes.
And about knowing that there's no question that customer service is the way that your business can thrive. I'm absolutely convinced by that. And I know now, and I know from experience, I mean, I have got reams and reams of, it sounds, well, they're useful because they're marketing, of accolades.
Testimonials and things, yeah. I never kept mine, but I should have kept all mine from the past. That's important too, keeping your testimonials. But Penny, your reputation for customer service is second to none. And I'm sure that's what helps you. That's what makes all the difference. Yeah.
And you can fall foul.
Sorry?
And you can fall foul of customer service because if you become too good at helping people, they become reliant. That's
true. Now, that's a good question. So I'll ask you this one. How do you deal with over needy customers? How do you draw your boundaries?
Well, my NLP comes straight into it.
Yeah.
There's a belief that there's a positive intent in all behavior. I usually show this physically, but if I can show it with my hands, here is the behavior.
Yeah.
Here is the person. If you can separate the behavior from the person, then if you watch, the person is an okay person. Yes. Every person, whether they're needy, whether they're angry, whether they're whatever they are, it's an okay person. But the behavior is not always acceptable.
Yeah.
So it's about looking at the okay person and saying, okay, what's the purpose of that behavior?
Yes.
And there's always, the purpose is always a conscious or an unconscious, consciously or unconsciously, it is to satisfy needs. And there are basic needs: attention, appreciation, acknowledgement, that sort of thing. Love, you know, you can go back to Maslow to look at the basic needs. So if you can recognize what the needs are and satisfy those needs in a different way from the way in which this person is presenting themselves.
Yes.
So, I mean, somebody who is particularly needy usually lands up saying, oh, but you haven't done, and you haven't, and what about, and a lot of anger comes out even with needy people. And it's a matter of, okay, how can I satisfy that need, make them feel happy without having them take advantage, which is what it boils down to.
Yeah. So where, how do you draw the boundaries in that situation? I have my own way, but because we are talking to the group itself, I would be interested to know how you draw the boundaries, how you say to that person, don't confuse infinite, a sort of, what's the word? Oh, don't confuse my patience with endless patience.
What I do usually is I back off, but I back off by, sorry, I'm too busy to talk at the moment. Because there's people messaging me on Facebook. Right. Sorry, I've got to get this done, I've got to get that done, I'll get back to you tomorrow. I'll start delaying, you know, if they're expecting instant response, I'll say, well, I'll respond to you tomorrow because I've got rather a lot today. Yeah. So they get used to the fact that the response is not going to be immediate, for starters. So it's backing off by slow degrees.
Yes.
And sometimes it brings forth sort of, why aren't you talking to me, or why aren't you helping me anymore? And I'll say, well, you actually know what you need to do now, don't you? Remember? So it's back to life coaching now, I suppose.
Yes.
In life coaching, it's always about asking questions that get people to think differently.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So I guess that I do that, but I do that without even realizing I'm doing it, actually.
Yeah. In fact, I think as you get older, that's what you do. That's something Google doesn't seem to teach you. But that's what people have ideas, I think, that are not necessarily they're their truth, but they're not necessarily the truth. And I guess it's getting people to examine their truth to see whether it's the same truth as the other person in the relationship.
I think that's truth.
No, exactly. I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you said that, because I have a friend who I adore, but we cannot get along because she is a believer in one absolute truth, and there is no wavering from that. And it makes it impossible for us to communicate, because I can have, my truth is sort of flexible. I don't mean that I'm a liar. Don't mean that kind of, but I'm open to new ideas, and to feel that the peak of human knowledge is now is somewhat arrogant, I think, because truth changes.
Well, people have got their own truths. It's obviously there in organized religions.
Yes, yeah, sure.
And I've been through having my own truth.
Yeah.
And it caused quite a lot of problems, because I was a trainer and my absolute truth was coming through. Yeah. And that is absolutely a no-no when you're doing training in industry.
Yeah. This is why I'm not sure I could do that. I'm not sure I could be, even though I've done sort of therapeutic stuff with people, I'm not sure I could be a therapist, because I always have my own opinions.
Well, don't we all? What I do as far as people having their own absolute truth, I always say, I respect your beliefs. My beliefs happen to be different.
Yes.
And that can be the case even with the obvious one lately for me has been I've been rationing the clay. Well, I've been given a lot of flack for doing that. You know, this is not business. I've said that I want this clay and you've got to sell it to me. No, I haven't got to sell it to you. And their absolute truth is that it's bad business not to sell to a customer. A customer is a customer is what.
Oh yes, when you've had to ration, when clay has been difficult to get hold of, you've had to ration it. Yes, it's fair. It's fair enough. If you,
one of my suppliers hasn't been in touch with me, hasn't sent me clay, sent me other things, but hasn't sent me clay for 6 months now.
Wow.
And that's not funny.
No.
As happened, I think ahead. I think ahead because of Brexit.
Yes.
So I bought large quantities before the end of the year,
yes.
which tided me over. But if I hadn't done that, I would have been really, the business would have gone under, quite honestly.
Yes, well, we were the same because of my illness from a few years ago. I'd become a preparer. So before the COVID thing hit, I was already prepared
yes.
with stock of things. And I'm quite, in fact, in our business, Frank is the boss of the business, but I'm the bossy one. And I'm always saying to him, stock on shelves, stock on shelves. And it's become a bit of a mantra in our house because he's a just-in-time provider and I'm a stock on shelves provider. And they're completely different ways of looking at things.
Very much so, yes.
Yeah. So how, I suppose, is it easier working on your own than having somebody else alongside you that argues with you?
I've had a couple of assistants over the last few years because it was getting a bit much for me, but it didn't work.
Didn't work?
It worked initially. I thought, oh, this is great. I've got help. But this is a problem. I guess I'm a bossy boots. I want it my way.
I'm a micromanager too, and my husband tells me off for this.
And it didn't work. I mean, no, it didn't work in that I gave people leeway, but having given them leeway, I was struggling because I was having to adapt.
That's exactly my experience. I had a wonderful employee at one time, because I'm a bit of a lefty, I paid her good money per hour because she was worth it and I was earning a lot from her work. Unfortunately, she was a young lass and she wasn't as driven as I am. So she didn't bother coming in if she didn't need the money. So I was paying my way out of this employee, which was awkward, really, so, because she had the choice, because she was self-employed. She had the choice to come in or not. So, yeah, sometimes the leeway you give is that bit too much. And she would have had a job longer, I think, had she come in more often and had I been able to fulfill the orders that eventually drained away because we couldn't fulfill them. So that was
I've been busier during lockdown. I've been busier than I've ever been ever since the business started because we got so many people who were making while they were locked down.
Yes.
And I got so many orders. I was almost literally full-time working, packing parcels and the like.
Well, a lot of people have started making businesses out of their craft, which is why I've just done the books and I'm just about to publish the workbook to go with it. Because there's so many people who want to know how to sustain that business that they've just started during lockdown. And we've been busier during lockdown than before as well. And I've heard...
Well, what it did for me, the being busy during lockdown was that it made me realize I can do much, much more if I keep myself organized.
Yes, yes.
So in fact, one can do much more than one thinks one can.
Yes. And in fact, the fact that we weren't able to go out and do this and that, the silly bits of shopping that we didn't need and that kind of thing focused our minds, didn't it?
Astonishing how much extra time one has.
Yes. And how much less one spends when not thinking about just, oh, shall we go out today and get this thing that we wanted. And,
I agree. Yeah.
So Amazon has been a blessing and an absolute nightmare. I mean, as a lefty, I shouldn't love Amazon, but it has meant that we've only bought the one thing that we wanted. So
speak for yourself. I think Amazon's probably running one of its British centres with the sales I've had from me.
Yeah, no, that's exactly how I feel. But we haven't bought more than we needed. Yeah. We've just bought exactly what we needed. And of course, as small businesses, we recognise the damage that Amazon does to our own businesses and those of, or has done in the past. But it does seem that people are also, whilst they've gone to Amazon for a certain set of goods and services, they've also started to appreciate small businesses and creative businesses too.
The irony of it is that Amazon have got customer service absolutely spot on.
Yeah.
I mean, they could be better.
They know. Yeah, they know.
It's all automatic, but it's brilliant.
Yes.
You know, you can't fault it.
No, in a way we can't do it. I mean, we simply, you're very quick. Your turnover of orders is very quick, but ours is not. I have to say that sometimes an order is sitting with Frank for up to a week. Why? Because of his just-in-time thing.
I don't have problems with stock sitting on the shelves because the interest currently, the interest rates are so low. Why not just have it sitting on the shelf so that I can enjoy it?
But we make most of ours because our goods are things that we've produced. So
exactly. It's a different type of mindset. I do understand that, but then it's worth thinking about that because if you're making stuff and you've got a lot of stuff that hasn't sold, then there are alternative methods, surely, of selling that stock that hasn't sold. The stuff.
Well, there are. There are. I mean, the thing is that personally, I've moved away from making miniatures to sell as such, although I do, because the business is now Frank's. And when I was ill, we realized we needed to future-proof the business. So what we did was we went towards producing reproducible materials, tools and materials that Frank could do. When I was ill, we didn't know whether I would survive. So we had to look at the future as if I wasn't going to be in the business at all. So that helps. But yes, of course, if for example, I make miniature flowers now, if my flowers don't sell to miniaturists, they can be combined into bouquets, bespoke bouquets for miniature bouquets for brides who want to keep a copy of their bouquet, or can go into, for example, this year I did the Christmas tree baubles, which is a completely different audience. It's not miniaturists, even though these things are miniatures. So yeah, I've had to think about different ways of combining things, not because I've needed to so much as just really, I do these things in order to find ways of other people using my products. So I will play with what I think other people can do.
Well, what I've taken to doing, the dearth of clay has done that to me. I've had to think of something different. I mean, I thought of that quite a few years ago when the clay was not selling all that well. I realised I've got to sell other things other than clay, which is why I've got such a wide inventory. But during the lockdown, people only wanted clay. They didn't want anything else.
Yeah.
So all the other stuff just wasn't selling. And so my mind immediately starts going to, hold on, I've got to do something different here. Yeah. And I keep on doing that. And I've been doing that over the years. I've got to do something different. What can I do?
It's pivoting. It's called pivoting. And I read a great book. I think I've mentioned it already on the group. It's called Tarzan Economics. And it's about pivoting in times of change. And that's something, this is why you managed to start a business at a mature age, because you had the ability to change your direction, I think, at any time. Yeah. And I'm very impressed.
Changing direction all my life. I've been trying to find something that I could do that would work.
Yes.
Since I was age 8. And I used to go to the chemist with my pocket money, and I used to buy bath crystals.
Yeah.
Yeah. In a big bag.
I remember them, yes. Yeah.
And I used to split the bags into small bags and sell them to my mum's friends.
Well, I did things like that myself when I was little, with sweeties and things. Yeah, we might have in our past market traders or something, Penny. Maybe that's what it is, that we've just got that
and I've been
selling bug
all my life. You know, I've been watching people. I've been watching the way people are running businesses and the way their customer service, and thinking, God, I can do better than that.
Well, do you know, I want to know what people aren't. I want you to tell people what they aren't doing that they ought to be doing. The craft businesses. What are they not doing that they could be doing?
Again, it's customer service. It's communicating.
Communication.
When you first start, it's about bending over backwards to be helpful. I mean, going more than 100 miles. It's really, really bending over backwards.
Yeah.
Because as soon as people are pleased with what they've got, they will immediately tell other people. And there's no question that recommendation is by far the best way. By far
yeah.
best.
Well, I can't help recommending you, Penny. So if I can't help recommending you, neither can all your other customers. So that's probably what that's about. The other thing is that you bring out a new newsletter. Do you want to explain your...
Bring that newsletter now, God help me, for almost 7 years, every month. It's a real pain in the arse, quite honestly, because I have to think up something new every month. Yeah. And it's about giving people information. It's not about just straightforward marketing, which so many people do. They put out newsletters, which is just, look, I've got this, I've got this, I've got this, you know, you want this. No, I've got 1/4 of what I write. It's about what products I've got. Yes. The rest, I've been featuring people for many years now, featuring anybody from beginners right through to experts. I've got a real expert this month, someone who's been going, she was one of the first people I even noticed before I'd ever started going into business. Yeah. And I've persuaded her to let me write about her. So this month it's going to be really pretty special.
But it's reaching out for your connections. I mean, particularly in the creative world. I think the lady I interviewed a few weeks ago, Krista Cloutier, she's she used to be an art dealer, and she's an artist and a mentor in art, in selling your art. And she basically talks about why it's important to help your neighbors and discuss things with your neighbors and make most of your content not about yourself or your own business, but useful to the person who reads it.
Oh, first thing I ever did, and that was my son's idea when I first started the business. He said, go onto Twitter. In those days, Twitter was not a political platform. Yeah. But go onto Twitter, he said, but in advance, line up a whole load of hints and tips that you can give to people about polymer and clay. And I had a list of about 20 different hints and tips. Now that was before Ginger.
Yes.
Pre-Ginger. And I used to put these out on Twitter, and I got my first ever customer from Twitter as a result of these hints and tips that I was putting out on Twitter. I'd put them out every few days. And there's no question that doing things to help other people when you first start to help. Now,
as a matter of fact, I have asked Ginger, but she's a bit busy at the moment. I've asked Ginger if she'll come onto one of these chats, but she's so busy because she is so damn good at what she does. That's the thing. She knows exactly how to market that business, as well as actually her information is really useful. But she knows marketing, and I'm quite envious of her ability, because I'm such a waffy, airy, fairy sort of person who just comes up with ideas and does it. But she seems
marketing. She's focused. So
yeah.
completely focused on marketing. But marketing in America is very different from marketing.
Yes, it is.
Exceptionally different.
Yes.
In my belief, because I would never, ever, which Jonesy does, say, you know, this is me, I'm better than anybody else.
Yes, we don't. But are we wrong? Are we wrong? We're far more humble.
Not in Britain, I don't think we are, because British people don't like, we still don't, even these days.
No, you're right.
Like this.
But we
a wonderful example of a customer of mine, because for me, she's got it absolutely right.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't like what she was doing initially, but by God, she's got it right.
Yes.
4 months ago, she didn't even know polymer clay existed.
Right, yeah.
She got in touch with me to ask me questions about products. Someone would recommend she get in touch with me, and she got in touch with me on Messenger to ask me about products. And I asked her a number of questions, and she gave me answers of what she was doing. I then started asking her about herself and what she did and how she did it. Turned out that she'd done an MBA in London.
Yeah.
She's not a mean feat by any means.
No.
And she'd now moved to Edinburgh, and she's got 2 young children, so she can't work anymore. She's at home with the children.
Yeah.
She has, since a child, always wanted to do crafts, but her parents said, no, it's got to be MBA. It's got to be in industry.
Yeah.
Well, she started by she said, no, I've got no money. My husband won't support this.
Yeah.
Now, as far as he's concerned, you know, this is, if she wants to do it, she can do it, but he's not going to give her any money.
Mm.
She bought some clay.
Mm.
She asked question after question after question. But you know, she made something, and she said, I'm going to have a business card. And I was saying, oh dear, her business card was all flowery.
Yes. Yeah.
And I didn't think much of this, but no, this is what she wanted to do. She knew what she was doing. Then she decided on the name, and I thought, that's a strange name. But no, she'd got it. She was single-minded about what she was going to do and how she was going to do it.
Yeah.
She started making things. She started up a group on Facebook.
Yeah. She's
now got hundreds and hundreds of followers.
Yeah.
She is making so much stuff that she's using every spare minute, selling. Yeah. And every time she sells, she buys more clay.
Yeah.
And she makes more, and she makes more. And the presentation is all on this flowery cards. And when she posts orders to her customers, she actually, it's pretty, pretty, pretty. I've seen the boxes. All the boxes are absolutely beautifully presented. Yes. And she sends all the goods to her customers in these beautifully presented boxes. She's Muslim, and she put Happy Eid, is it? Yeah. Yes, Happy Eid on the boxes that went around that time. Yeah. I mean, and she's thriving. Now she's been going 4 months. She's now still learning. She's still asking questions.
Yeah.
She has got it right.
Yes.
She is, when people aren't responding on her group, she says, where's everybody gone? You know, I need you to talk to me. What? Working.
But yeah, one thing I wanted to mention to you, when you said that British people don't necessarily feel comfortable with the American way of selling, the problem is that we're all becoming a lot more international. And certainly for me, outside of Brexit Britain, I'm out in Spain. I have probably half of my customers are American. So I have to adopt a more American focused style, but then still be my authentic self, because it's no good pretending to be and in fact I don't like being sold to in the North American style. I find it quite uncomfortable.
Yes,
I have to learn to balance the way that I sell between the two camps, because basically Britain is probably less than a quarter of my
Right.
these days.
Well, it's a big difference for you, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm drinking because I'm talking too much. I'm drinking.
You must. Anyway, well, we're actually likely to go. We're likely to be cut off soon because I haven't gone Zoom professional. I was for a while, and I should do again, but I haven't gone Zoom professional. So they might cut us off.
Oh, okay.
So, have you got any last advice for people who are just setting up in business? Particularly, let's talk to the people who think, oh, is it a bit late? Because I know there are people who are setting up businesses just
I would say know that you can do it. Yes. And that's life coaching again. Just know that anybody can do anything. If I was born into a family of engineers, I could have developed into an engineer. I was born into a family of artists, so I developed into the artistic sphere and recognize what your predisposition is. I think the other big one is you've got to really love what you're doing.
Yeah.
You won't succeed unless you love what you're doing.
No, you've got to.
And I'm in love with polymer clay. I can't explain to you how in the other room where all the clay is on the shelves, it's just a wall of colour.
Oh, it's colour porn. I agree with you. You don't need to explain to me. It's colour. If I see a postcard, if I see a postcard with a bin full of coloured flowers or something on it, it's colour porn. I just can't get enough of it. I'll buy anything. I buy crayons. I'll buy a whole set of crayons and have every colour because that's my obsession. Oh, I know exactly what you mean, Penny.
I've got to remember that colour.
And at the moment, I'm pretty much in love with, and I know you've had a few problems with them at the moment. I'm pretty much in love with some of Primo's colours. The fuchsia.
I've got them arriving, the new colours, or I hope I am. There's half a dozen new colours coming out.
Well, mine aren't new, but the old fuchsia, the pomegranate red is the best red available. Right. I like the wasabi just because you can mix down other greens with it because it's got the optical brightness sort of thing in it. Don't like their yellows. Much prefer to use yellow from Fimo's range.
Right. Well, zinc yellow, the theory is that cobalt, zinc yellow and fuchsia, you can make any colour you like.
That's the theory, but it's not true.
It is. I've done canes. I've made canes with every colour under the sun.
It might be true. It might be true for what you're doing, but I did a lot of experimentation for my colour book, and
well, it was Carol Simmons that taught me that.
Sorry, it
was Carol Simmons that taught me that. I went on to a week's workshop with her, and I can make any colour.
You can, but they won't necessarily work for miniatures, for botanical miniatures. So, you know, there is a caveat there. You can make the colours, but if you want something thin and that pigment isn't strong enough or whatever, it's just there is a caveat to you can make any colour with magenta, yellow, and cyan. It's not quite true. Cyan is a problem for making nature's colours. You have to start, for nature's colours, you have to start with marine blue or ultramarine. Ultramarine is the bright one.
Ultramarine.
Yeah, for all the greens, my advice to anybody is to start off with ultramarine and yellow rather than
zinc yellow.
Sorry?
And zinc yellow.
Well, I tend to use the
you're using Cernit, aren't you?
Fimo. No, I use Fimo for that.
Right.
The problem is Cernit has got rid or had, I don't know whether they've got it back, but the lemon yellow had gone, and there was only the one that's got the reddish, the sort of golden hue, and that's the one. Once again, that's no good for somebody who wants to mix all the greens of nature. But I do use a lot of Cernit.
I've got a primary yellow in number 1 of Cernit.
I think Have they got two yellows, or have they now only got
And
one?
a yellow ochre and a primary yellow.
Ah, right. So I'll have to look that up, because they used to have, because this, I've got a yellow in front of me in filaments. That yellow's no good.
Right.
You can't make all the spring greens with that yellow because it's got too much red in it.
Yeah, right.
So that, but that's just for botanical miniatures. That's not, it's not relevant to your jewelry makers at all or anything like that. Yeah. So Penny, I'm sorry we're going to have to pull this one to an end, but I could chat with you all morning. But I'm worried in case they cut me off without an end, without a natural ending. And we all like a natural ending, don't we, Penny?
Yeah, natural ending. I'm going to live to 102, so I've got a long way to go yet.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Frank's got me on contract until I'm at least 90, because then he'll be 80, and he says he doesn't want me to go too far before he does. So I'm on contract till at least 90, but we might renew the contract. We'll see how it goes.
Right, well, I'll talk to you again in 10 years.
Yeah, do that. Thanks very much, Penny. Pleasure. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.